Okay, let's see. I'm going to start off with a already keyed head, which as you can see, I'm sure you know how to key by now, so I won't really need to do that part. Save some time. It's basically a color key, spill suppressor, mate choker. Alright, so let's start off with the keyed head, which once we key it, all it was in front of a green wall, and just happened to look good for that one, so I got lucky on the green. Wasn't a green screen or anything like that, just a green wall in the kid's bedroom. And so once you do that, you'll get your alpha channel, which, as you can see, black and white alpha channel. But you have to have this in order for this effect to work. You can't do it like with the edge, one of the difference thing, because you're not going to get a clear enough thing. Unless you do it in front of a blank wall and you get a really good alpha mat. You need a really good alpha mat to do it. Not like super perfect or anything like that, because it's only for an aura. But in order to put yourself in front of the aura, you really need to key yourself out pretty good. So as long as you got a keyed out subject, we'll start there. So got it opened up, and first thing I got to do is auto trace the outline of my head. So what we're going to do is run that, go layer, auto trace, and we want to do it on the alpha channel. So, and what you want to do is basically, these are the settings that I have for this particular thing. I adjusted my threshold on this one. Normally I keep it lower, but I adjusted it higher on this one because of the way I keyed it. You want to try to get the line as close to possible at the head as you can. This way, when you're done, because what's going to happen is this line that we create, the particles are going to be flowing from the line, the edge here, and if it's sometimes the alpha channel is a little blurred on the edges, it depends on how you key it out and all that. But if you keep a soft edge, it's going to be blurred, so it's going to come actually a little bit above, so that the auto trace is going to see that. So you want to make sure it's tight up against the body. This way the particles don't generate like a millimeter, centimeter away from the area. So you want to kind of, if anything, just a little bit below. But for now, you just want to keep it just tight up against, because what's going to happen is on the next, we're going to run auto tracer again. Once we create this one traced image, it's going to create another line on the inside, another trace on the inside. So it's actually, the particles are going to come from the middle of the two trace lines, because it's going to create like a little alpha mat, a skinny lined alpha mat going around. So we want to try to keep the first line right tight against us. The second line is all automatic. So let's just go ahead and run this. Doesn't take too long. Go ahead and pause it just in case. I don't think this part takes long now, unless the tutor messes it up. Now we have our mat that it just created, and you'll see a black edge. That's just coming from the background, because as you can tell, I had the soft edge from my keying, so that's why that's showing up. Now just go ahead and you can turn the bottom layer off, because we don't need that anymore. We just need the mat that it just created. So now what we got to do is add a edge finder to this, find edges, and it'll give us our edge. Now we need to trace this. I don't think we have to, well, yeah, I believe we have to invert it. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to select invert, go to auto trace. We want to make sure we're in luminance, not alpha anymore. We have to be in the luminance channel so it can pick up the white line. Okay, that's the right one. It picks up the white line on the edge of the black mat. So let's click OK, and I'll F9 that. Alright, so we can turn this layer off. Now we have a very thin white line going around. So to see how this is, let's go ahead and create another black, put it right behind it so we can see our white line. Okay, so we can turn that off. That's just for reference, just so we can see our line if we need to. Okay, now we have our traced line. That's basically all we needed for the outline. Alright, now we got to add a brightness and contrast to this to make it darker. Doesn't have to be super dark, just like a mid-gray or so. This can be tweaked, obviously. Everything can be tweaked once you do it. Just tweak it to whatever winds up looking right in the end. So we'll set it to -50 just to get an even number. Now we need to add particles. So simulation, particles, CC particle systems. Now leave longevity, turn birth rate up. So we'll start at 100, I guess. Turn producer to say, bring these up to 100 or so. Physics, fire I use for this one. Let's see, what else? Velocity I want turned down, 0. Gravity for now, 0. Direction, 0. Extra, 0. Okay. Now we got our particles. Everything's going to be 0. I believe we're going to turn down inherent velocity. Particles. Check source alpha inheritance. Okay, so it comes. The particles will be generating from the inside of the two mass that we just made. So leave opacity that way. Particle type. The one I chose for this, you can choose anything. You can use the line if you want to make flame looking things, because if you choose a line you can just blur the effect, and then when you bring it over you add a glow to it and it kind of creates the flames. So you know, you can play with all this stuff. I believe I use lens fade for this particular one. Yep, lens fade. Now let's see, got the particles up there. Now the way you adjust the radius, basically you take it, it's going to be different I think for every scene. Just adjust it to where the lines, the particles fill up your the mass that you created. See, if you got a low one, just extend it until it just fills the whole thing up. So this one's like 90 or so. Same with this one, just adjust it until it fills the whole thing up. So it'll definitely depend on the clip. I gotta move this up so I can see the bottom of it. Okay, right there. 70 something for that one, and make sure. Okay, good. So now we got that filled up. Let me move this down a little bit so you can see more of it. Okay. Now I turn velocity down to -0.1, and then I turn the gravity the opposite direction, 0.1. So this way it'll flow up, but not too fast. But you can adjust the gravity and everything to your liking. Here, let me turn on this. Maybe we can see it. Turn the brightness, contrast off, just so we can see the lines better while we're working on it. So you're just gonna have to play with it until you get the right settings. Change the birth rate, you know, depending on how many particles you want. If you want a lot, I mean, you can go with a lot. Or I just set it for 100 just because it was even. You know, that's the normal. So I guess it's going to depend on your masking and everything, how many particles you're going to use. But as you can see, they're flowing upward. But you can change the gravity if you want to go a little bit faster to flow up. I just tried to set it to the lowest setting possible and actually type it in there, because if you move it with the mouse and it says 0.1, it may actually be 0.19. You wouldn't even know it. So actually type the number in there when you do it. Keep all this other stuff off. I mean, you can play with them, see what kind of effects you get with them. You know.